Jack Mason never wanted to be a hero. As a communications specialist aboard the colony ship Horizon, his job was simple: keep contact between Earth and the thousands of colonists traveling to a new planet. At 32 years old, Jack had a failed marriage behind him. People saw him as average. Nothing special. Just a guy who did his job well enough. The Horizon was 4 months into its journey when everything changed. Jack was checking signal strength in the communications bay when the ship's alarm started blaring. All senior staff report to the bridge. Captain Samantha Powell's voice echoed through the speakers. Jack wasn't senior staff, so he kept working. An hour later, his supervisor called him. "Mason, report to medical bay immediately." Captain's orders. Jack felt confused as he walked through the ship's long corridors. Why would the captain want him in medical? He wasn't a doctor. When the door slid open, he froze. Lying on a bed was a woman, but not a human woman. Her skin was blue like the deepest ocean. Her hair flowed like silver water down to her waist. Strange markings covered her arms, glowing faintly in the dim light. "Mason, good. You're here," Captain Powell said. "We found her ship drifting out there, damaged badly. She was the only survivor we could find." "Why am I here?" Jack asked. "You took that basic alien language course last year, right? The one about universal communication patterns?" Jack nodded slowly. "Yes, but I'm not an expert. I just thought it might be useful someday." "Well, today is someday. Our translation software isn't working well with her language. We need a human touch." The blue woman's eyes opened. They were deep purple with no whites, like looking into twin galaxies. She said something in a musical language that made Jack's ears tingle. "Hello," Jack said, keeping his words simple. "I'm Jack. We found your ship. You're safe now." The woman sat up quickly, then winced in pain. A doctor gently pushed her back down. "Easy now," the doctor said. The woman reached for a small bag attached to her belt. The security guard tensed, but Captain Powell nodded for him to let her continue. From the bag, she pulled out a crystal orb about the size of an apple. "Veloria," she said, pointing to herself. "Queen Veloria." Through a mix of simple words, hand gestures, and drawings on a tablet, they learned that Veloria was running from something. Assassins, Jack thought she was trying to say. Her royal ships had been attacked and she escaped in a small vessel. "Why?" "Were they attacking you?" Jack asked, miming someone shooting. Veloria's face darkened. She held up the crystal orb and spoke rapidly. The translation software caught fragments. Royal bloodline. Sacred tradition. Must find ... worthy match. Jack didn't understand much, but it seemed like some kind of political problem. Maybe a fight for her throne. "Can I see that?" he asked, pointing to the orb. It was beautiful, with swirling colors. Inside that seemed to move like living smoke. Veloria hesitated, then carefully handed it to him. The moment Jack's fingers touched the crystal, it burst into brilliant light. The orb levitated an inch above his palm and began to spin, shooting beams of colored light around the room. Everyone stepped back in shock. Veloria gasped, her hands covering her mouth. Her eyes grew wide as she stared at Jack. The orb slowly settled back into his hand, but continued to glow brightly. Where it had been cool before, it now felt warm against his skin. "What did I do?" Jack asked nervously. "I'm sorry." "Did I break it?" Veloria stood up despite the doctor's protests. She bowed deeply to Jack, then took his free hand and placed it over her heart. She spoke a single sentence that the software translated as, "The orb has chosen." Before anyone could ask what that meant, the ship's alarms blared again. "Captain, to the bridge." A voice called over the speakers. They rushed to the bridge, Veloria insisting on coming with them. On the main screen, 3 massive ships had appeared. They were unlike anything Jack had seen before, organic-looking vessels with spines and curves that glowed with the same light as Veloria's markings. "They found me," Veloria said through the translator. "My royal guard? Those are friendlies?" Captain Powell asked. Veloria looked uncertain. She spoke rapidly, and the translation came through broken. "Not all ... dial loyal to me. Some want different ruler, civil conflict." "They're hailing us," the communications officer said. Put them through, ordered the captain. A blue-skinned man appeared on screen. He wore elaborate armor and had more facial markings than Valoria. He spoke harshly. The translation software struggled. Return? Royal property ... immediately. Or face ... destruction. Tell them we rescued her. We mean no harm, Captain Powell said. As the officer tried to relay this, the alien ships moved into attack positions. They're charging weapons. Someone shouted. Valoria pushed forward. I must speak to them. She turned to Jack. You come too. Show Orb. Why me? Jack asked. Orb chose you. They must see. Captain Powell looked doubtful. Mason isn't trained. For first contact situations? We don't have much choice, Jack said, watching the alien ships on the screen. The Horizon isn't a warship. We can't fight those things. After a quick discussion, Captain Powell agreed. Fine, Mason, you go with Valoria. Take Lieutenant Reed and Dr. Patel with you. Use the shuttle to approach their lead ship. Try to talk them down. Me? Talk down an alien standoff? Jack couldn't believe what he was hearing. Just show them we're friendly and that the Queen is safe, Powell said. We'll keep channels open. 20 minutes later, Jack found himself in a shuttle approaching the largest alien ship. His heart pounded in his chest. The orb still glowed in his hand, refusing to dim no matter what he tried. Valoria sat beside him, now dressed in her own clothing that had been recovered from her ship. She wore an elaborate dress that seemed to flow like water and change colors with her movements. What does this orb thing mean? Jack asked her. Why did it light up for me? Valoria smiled mysteriously. In my language, we call it the Soul Star. It recognizes ... special connections. What kind of connections? Before she could answer, the shuttle docked with the alien vessel. The doors opened to reveal a corridor lined with blue-skinned guards in gleaming armor. They all dropped to one knee when Valoria appeared. She stepped forward confidently, then reached back and took Jack's hand, pulling him alongside her. The guards looked up in shock when they saw the glowing orb in his hand. One guard spoke urgently into a device on his wrist. Seconds later, a new alien approached, older, with elaborate robes and a staff topped with a crystal. Similar to Jack's orb, the elder's eyes widened at the sight of the glowing orb. He said something to Valoria, who responded proudly. Jack. Heard his name mentioned. The elder bowed deeply to Jack. All the guards followed suit. What's happening? Jack whispered to Valoria. I told them the truth, she said, squeezing his hand. That the Soul Star has chosen my royal consort. Your what? Jack froze. My husband, Valoria clarified, smiling brightly. The orb has recognized you as my perfect match. According to our most sacred laws, we are to be married immediately. Jack's mouth fell open as the guards began to cheer. But I didn't mean to. The ceremony will unite our people, Valoria continued, either not noticing or ignoring his shock. And more importantly, it will end the civil war before it begins. You have saved my kingdom, Jack Mason. As the aliens led them deeper into the ship, Jack realized with growing horror that he had accidentally agreed to marry an alien queen. And based on how everyone was treating him, he was about to become royalty on a world he'd never even heard of until today. Jack stood frozen as the blue-skinned guards led him and Valoria deeper into the alien ship. His mind raced. He needed to explain this was all a big mistake. He had just touched an orb. He didn't agree to marry anyone, especially not an alien. Queen from another world, Valoria, he whispered urgently. There's been a misunderstanding. I can't marry you. I don't even know you, the Queen smiled at him, her purple eyes sparkling. The Soul Star does not make mistakes, Jack Mason. It sees what is meant to be. But I'm just a communications guy from Earth. I'm not meant to be anyone's husband, especially not royalty. Before Valoria could respond, they entered a massive room. It looked like a throne room from a fairy tale, but everything was made of shimmering metals and crystals. Dozens of blue-skinned aliens in fancy clothes bowed as they entered. An older alien with long silver hair and a staff stepped forward. The translator in Jack's ear identified him as High Counselor Zeth. Your Majesty. Zeth said, bowing to Valoria. We feared you were lost, and now you return with... He looked at Jack with wide eyes. The prophecy is fulfilled. The Soul Star has chosen an outsider, just as the ancient texts foretold. Jack tried to speak, but Valoria squeezed his hand hard, signaling him to stay quiet. Yes, High Counselor. This is Jack Mason of Earth. The Soul Star awakened at his touch. The civil conflict must end now. The royal bloodline has found its match. Jack noticed how Valoria spoke about the civil conflict. On the horizon, she had made it sound like she was running from assassins. Now it seemed more like she was in the middle of a power struggle and somehow thought marrying him would solve. I need to contact my ship, Jack said. My captain needs to know what's happening, Zeth nodded. Of course. We will send a message to your people. They are honored guests now, friends of the Azurian Empire. A guard led Jack to a small room with a communication device. After some help figuring out how it worked, he was able to connect to the horizon. Mason? What's happening over there? Captain Powell's worried face appeared on the screen. Captain, I'm in a bit of a situation, Jack said, keeping his voice low. They think I'm supposed to marry their queen. Something about this orb choosing me as her perfect match. Powell's eyes widened. Are you in danger? No, they're treating me like like royalty. But this is crazy. I can't marry an alien queen. I need to get back to the ship. Actually, said a new voice, I've been studying their transmissions. Olivia Chun, another communications specialist, appeared beside the captain. From what I can tell, these aren't assassins hunting the queen. This is some kind of royal escort that was searching for her. She ran away during what seems like a political dispute. Jack frowned. So she lied to us? Maybe not lied, Olivia said, but definitely didn't tell the whole truth. And Jack, their culture takes this orb thing very seriously. It's like their most sacred ritual. If you reject her now... What? It could trigger that civil war she mentioned. The orb choosing you seems to have unified the different factions. Jack ran his hand through his hair. This is insane. What am I supposed to do? Captain Powell looked serious. Mason, I can't order you to do this. But until we understand more about these aliens and their technology, we need to be careful. They've already demonstrated weapons that could destroy the horizon. Play along for now while we figure out a diplomatic solution. After ending the call, Jack was escorted back to the throne room. He found Valoria surrounded by what looked like wedding planners, all talking excitedly. Jack, she said warmly, come meet the royal event coordinator. The union ceremony will take place in 6 hours. 6 hours? Jack felt panic rising. That's too fast. An alien who looked different from the others approached Jack. This one had greenish-blue skin and 4 arms. Excuse me, your soon-to-be highness. I am Krell, royal advisor to Queen Valoria. May I speak with you privately? Jack nodded gratefully and Krell led him to a quiet corner. I sense you are troubled, Krell said in surprisingly good English. I didn't agree to any of this, Jack admitted. I just touched an orb. Now everyone expects me to marry the queen and become some kind of king. Krell's expression grew serious. You must understand our situation. Our world, Azuria, has been divided for years. 2 royal families have claimed the throne. Queen Valoria's line has the stronger claim, but her cousin Draz has powerful supporters. When the Soul Star chose you, it ended the debate. No one can argue with the sacred relic. But what if I refuse? Jack asked. Civil war, Krell said simply. Millions would die, and... He hesitated. The wedding ceremony creates a special bond between you and Valoria, a psychic connection that can never be broken. If you refuse now, after the Soul Star has chosen, it would be seen as the greatest possible insult to our people and our gods. Jack felt trapped. He couldn't be responsible for starting a war, but he also couldn't marry someone he'd just met, especially not an alien queen. There must be another way, he said desperately. Krell shook his head. The path is set. But take heart, many royal marriages in our history began as arrangements. True feelings often grow later. He placed one of his 4 hands on Jack's shoulder. Perhaps this is your destiny, Jack Mason. Perhaps there is a reason the Soul Star chose you of all beings in the universe. Before Jack could argue further, trumpets sounded. The doors opened and more Azurians entered, carrying beautiful clothes and jewelry. "These are for you," Krell explained. "Royal attire for the ceremony." The clothes were unlike anything Jack had seen. Fabrics that changed color when touched, metals lighter than paper but stronger than steel, and gems that seemed to glow from within. As Jack was being fitted, a message came from the horizon. Captain Powell and a small delegation had been invited to attend the ceremony. They were being treated as honored guests, given fine quarters and food. "Your people will benefit greatly from this union," Krell told him. "Already, our scientists are offering to share technology with your ship. Your colony mission will succeed beyond imagination with Azurian help." Jack thought about the 17,000 colonists aboard the Horizon. Their mission would bring humanity to a new star system, ensuring the species would survive even if something happened to Earth. If his strange situation could help them. A servant approached with the Soul Star on a cushion. It still glowed brightly, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. "The orb must be with you until the ceremony," Krell explained. When Jack touched it again, the orb floated up and hovered before his face. Inside its swirling depths, he suddenly saw images, stars, planets, and what looked like Azuria itself. A world of floating cities and impossible beauty. For a brief moment, he felt Valoria's presence as if she were standing right beside him. He sensed her determination, her fear, and something else, hope. She truly believed this marriage would save her people. Jack took a deep breath. He was just a regular guy from Earth. He never wanted to be a hero, never wanted to be royalty. But sometimes life takes unexpected turns. "All right," he said quietly to the glowing orb. "Show me what I'm supposed to do." The wedding ceremony was unlike anything Jack had ever seen. He stood in a massive crystal dome with thousands of blue-skinned Azurians watching him. The ceiling showed the stars above, more stars than Jack had ever seen from Earth. 3 moons hung in the sky, each a different color. Jack wore royal clothes that felt like water but looked like metal. The outfit changed colors with his movements, shifting between deep blue and silver. The Soul Star floated between him and Valoria, glowing brighter than ever. Captain Powell and 5 crew members from the Horizon stood nearby as Earth's representatives. They looked as amazed as Jack felt. Valoria looked stunning in her royal dress. Her blue skin seemed to shimmer, and her silver hair was braided with tiny glowing gems. When she smiled at Jack, he felt a strange flutter in his chest. Was that his own feeling, or something the orb was doing to him? The High Priestess, an elderly Azurian with white hair and elaborate face markings, raised her hands. The crowd fell silent. "Today we witness what the ancient texts foretold," she announced. "The joining of our royal bloodline with the stars themselves. The Soul Star has chosen, and 2 worlds will become one." Jack swallowed hard. This was really happening. He was about to marry an alien queen he had met yesterday. The High Priestess instructed them to place their hands on the floating orb at the same time. Jack hesitated, remembering what Krell had said about a psychic bond. "I am sorry for the confusion," Valoria whispered in surprisingly clear English, "but my people needed this. You don't understand what's at stake." Before Jack could respond, she placed her hand on the orb. After a moment's hesitation, Jack did the same. Immediately, energy surged through his body. The Soul Star expanded, surrounding them both in a sphere of light. In that moment, Jack's mind connected with Valoria's. Suddenly, he could understand every word spoken by the Azurians. More than that, he could feel Valoria's thoughts and emotions. Her fear, her determination, and her genuine regret at trapping him in this situation. But there was something else, something she had been hiding from everyone. A terrible danger threatened her world. An enemy they called the Void, a strange darkness in space that consumed everything it touched. 3 Azurian colony worlds had already been lost. According to ancient prophecies, only a union between the Azurian royal line and star-crossed blood could activate the planet's ancient defense systems. Valoria had truly believed she had no choice. The light faded, and Jack found himself still standing in the dome. The ceremony continued. but now he understood every word without his translator. When the High Priestess pronounced them united, the crowd erupted in cheers. "Can you hear my thoughts?" Veloria asked in his mind. "Yes," Jack thought back, amazed. "This is incredible. The bond will grow stronger with time," she replied silently. "I am truly sorry for bringing you into this. Without choice. But now you understand why. This void, is it really that dangerous?" Veloria's mental voice was grim. "It has consumed 3 worlds already. Azuria will be next unless we can stop it." After the ceremony, there was a massive celebration. Jack met hundreds of Azurian officials and nobles. With his new ability to understand their language, he was able to speak with them directly. Many seemed surprised by his knowledge of their customs, knowledge he had gained instantly through his connection with Veloria. "Captain," Powell pulled him aside during the celebration. "Mason, are you okay? What happened in that light show?" Jack tried to explain the psychic bond and what he had learned about the void. Powell looked concerned. "So this wasn't just about their political problems? There's an actual threat to their world?" "And potentially to any world in its path," Jack said, "including the colony we were heading to." Powell nodded slowly. "I've been talking with their scientists. They're offering us technology we've only dreamed about. Faster engines, better shields, medical advances that could help our colonists, but they want something in return." "What?" "They want you to stay here as their king or whatever your title is now. And they want some of our people to stay as representatives. Cultural exchange, they call it." Jack wasn't surprised. Through his connection with Veloria, he knew the Azurians were fascinated by humans. They had never encountered a species so similar to themselves yet so different. "What do you think I should do?" Jack asked. Powell shrugged. "I can't make that call for you, Mason, but I will say this. The tech they're offering could save a lot of lives." "And if this void thing is real?" 3 days after the wedding, Jack moved into the royal palace on Azuria itself. The Azurian ships had escorted the horizon to their homeworld. A breathtaking planet with floating cities and impossible architecture, Jack's chambers were enormous, with views of the capital city that stretched for miles. The city was built on massive platforms that floated above the planet's surface, connected by bridges of light. Below, Jack could see vast oceans and forests with purple trees. Through his connection with Veloria, he learned more about Azurian culture every day. Their society was ancient, over 10,000 years old. They had explored hundreds of star systems, but had never found intelligent life quite like humans before. Jack was given the title of royal consort, which made him effectively a king. He had advisors, servants, and guards who followed him everywhere. It was overwhelming. One morning, as Jack stood on his balcony watching the sunrise, Krell arrived with urgent news. "Your Highness, there's been an incident. Someone tried to enter your chambers last night while you slept." Jack turned, alarmed. "An assassin? We believe so. The guards caught him, but he took poison before they could question him." Krell hesitated. "He was wearing the colors of House Draz, Veloria's cousin, who had opposed her claim to the throne. Even though the Soul Star had seemingly settled the dispute, some still resisted. The Queen requests your presence in the High Council chamber," Krell continued. "There is to be a discussion about security and about the void. Our long-range sensors have detected it moving again. It's heading toward Azuria faster than we predicted." Jack felt a chill. Through his bond with Veloria, he sensed her fear. Spike when Krell mentioned the void. "Tell her I'll be right there," Jack said. As Krell left, Jack looked back at the beautiful alien city. Just days ago, he had been a simple communications specialist on a colony ship. Now he was royalty on an alien world with a psychic bond to its queen. Facing both political enemies and a mysterious cosmic threat, Jack touched the Soul Star, which he now wore as a pendant. It glowed warmly in response. "I never meant for any of this to happen," he whispered to himself, "but here I am." He straightened his royal clothes and headed for the council chamber. Whatever was coming, he would face it beside Veloria. Not just because of their bond, but because her world was now his responsibility too. Jack entered the High Council chamber with his 4 royal guards following close behind. After the assassination attempt, security around him had doubled. The room was large and circular, with a round table in the center. The walls were made of a clear material that showed the sky outside, making it feel like they were floating among the clouds. Valoria sat at the head of the table, wearing her formal crown. Around her were 12 council members, including Krell and the High Priestess. Captain Powell was there too, representing Earth. "Jack," Valoria said, standing to greet him. Through their bond, he felt her relief at seeing him safe. "I hear someone tried to kill me last night," Jack said as he took his seat beside her. "House Draz grows desperate," said an older council member named Lauren. "They see the bond between you and our queen growing stronger each day. They fear what will happen when you activate the ancient defense." Jack had learned about the ancient defense over the past few weeks. It was a system built by the first Azurians thousands of years ago. According to legend, it could stop the void, but no one knew exactly how it worked. The only clue was that it required the royal bloodline and star-crossed blood to activate it. "Show him," Valoria said to a scientist at the table. The scientist touched a crystal in the center of the table. A 3-dimensional map appeared above them, showing Azuria and the surrounding star systems. A dark patch was visible at the edge of the map, slowly moving toward them. "The void has increased speed," the scientist explained. "At its current pace, it will reach Azuria in 30 days. The council members murmured in fear. Jack studied the map carefully. "What exactly is the void?" he asked. "Is it a weapon, a natural phenomenon?" "We don't know," admitted the scientist. "It absorbs all light and energy. Nothing survives contact with it. Probes we send into it never return. Ships that get too close are never seen again." Through his bond with Valoria, Jack sensed there was something she wasn't sharing with the council. He gave her a questioning. "Look, there is another theory," Valoria said reluctantly. "One from our oldest texts. They suggest the void is ... alive." The council erupted in shocked whispers. "Alive?" Lauren asked. "How can darkness be alive?" "Not darkness," Valoria said. "Something living within the darkness. Something trying to communicate." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. In his mind, Valoria shared an image from ancient Azurian texts, drawings of their ancestors communicating with a vast entity from the stars. "Is that why the ancient defense requires both bloodlines?" Jack asked. "Not to fight the void, but to talk to it." Valoria nodded slowly. "That is my belief. But no one has tried in thousands of years. The knowledge of how to do so was lost." "Not lost," the High Priestess said. "Hidden." She stood up, her white robes flowing around her. "It is time you both knew the truth." "Follow me," the High Priestess led Jack, Valoria, and Captain Powell deep beneath the floating city, down to where it connected with the planet's surface. They entered a cave that glowed with the same crystal energy as the Soul Star. "This is the first temple," the High Priestess explained, "built when our people first came to this world. The walls were covered in ancient writing and images." Jack couldn't read them, but through his bond with Valoria, he understood some of their meaning. They showed the first Azurians arriving on their world, fleeing from something, the void, but the images didn't show the void as an enemy. Instead, it appeared more like a parent looking for its child. "Our ancestors came from the void?" Jack asked, shocked. "Not exactly," the High Priestess said. "Our ancestors were created by whatever lives within the void. We were sent out to experience the universe separately. But every few thousand years, the void seeks reunion." "Reunion?" Captain Powell asked. "You mean it absorbs your people back into itself?" "Yes," said the High Priestess. "But in the past, our ancestors found a way to communicate with it, to explain that we wish to remain separate but still connected. The ancient defense is not a weapon, it's a communication device. It allows our minds to touch the mind of the void without being consumed by it." Jack looked at Valoria. "And it needs both of us because you are different," the High Priestess said. "Your mind works in ways ours do not." The void created us, but it did not create humans. You evolved separately. Your perspective is unique. So I'm like a translator? Jack asked. More like a bridge, Veloria said, taking his hand. Our minds together can speak to the void in a new way. At least, that is what the prophecy suggests. They continued deeper into the temple until they reached a massive chamber. In the center stood a structure that looked like the Soul Star, an enormous 30 feet tall at least. The Great Soul, the High Priestess explained. The first and largest of the Soul Stars. With this, the royal bloodline once communicated with the void. And that's what we need to do, Jack asked. Yes, Veloria said. But there is something I haven't told you. She looked deeply troubled. According to the ancient texts, using the Great Soul requires a sacrifice. Jack felt cold. What kind of sacrifice? Veloria couldn't meet his eyes. The life force of both participants, the royal and the star-crossed. Captain Powell stepped forward angrily. You're saying this thing will kill you both? That's your plan? There must be another way, Jack said. He studied the writings on the wall more carefully. Through his bond with Veloria, he was beginning to understand the ancient language. Wait, he said, pointing to one section. This doesn't say death. It says transformation. Two become one, and one becomes the voice. The High Priestess looked surprised. You can read the ancient text? Through our bond, Jack explained. And this doesn't say what you think it does. It's not talking about dying. It's talking about evolving. Jack turned to Veloria. The void doesn't want to destroy your people. It wants to understand what you've become. It wants to learn from you, just as you were sent to learn from the universe. For the first time since he'd met her, Jack felt hope flowing through their bond instead of fear. How can you be sure? Veloria asked. I'm not, Jack admitted. But think about it. If the void just wanted to absorb your people, why would it need communication? Why would your ancestors build this device? There's more happening here. They returned to the council chamber with this new information. The debate lasted for hours. Some counselors thought they should evacuate the planet. Others wanted to try to fight the void with weapons. But in the end, they agreed to try Jack and Veloria's approach. We have 28 days to prepare, Veloria announced. We will need to move the Great Soul to a location where we can safely attempt communication with the void. As the meeting ended, Jack felt the weight of billions of lives on his shoulders. He had never asked for this responsibility. He had never meant to marry an alien queen or become royalty. But now the fate of an entire civilization might depend on him. Are you afraid? Veloria asked through their bond as they walked back to their chambers. Terrified, Jack admitted. But also curious, what if we're right? What if we can talk to this thing? Veloria squeezed his hand. Then you will have saved not just my world, but possibly many worlds, including Earth. Jack looked out at the beautiful floating city, wondering if he would live to see it again after they confronted the void. The next 28 days passed quickly. The Azurians built a special platform at the edge of their star system, far enough from their homeworld to be safe, but close enough for their ships to reach it. They moved the Great Soul there, a massive engineering task that required their largest ships. Jack spent every day learning more about the Great Soul and the ancient texts. His bond with Veloria grew stronger, allowing him to understand more of the Azurian language and history. Together they practiced joining their minds completely, preparing for the moment when they would need to become one voice. Captain Powell and the crew from the Horizon helped too. The humans offered different perspectives that the Azurians had never considered. Earth scientists studied the void from a distance, noting patterns that the Azurians had missed. It doesn't move in a straight line, Olivia Chun pointed out one day, studying the tracking data. It curves around certain types of stars, almost like it's being careful. That supports our theory, Jack said. If it were just a destructive force, it wouldn't avoid anything. The day before they were scheduled to attempt contact with the void, Jack stood with Veloria on the observation deck of the royal ship. Through the massive windows, They could see the edge of the void in the distance, a perfect darkness that swallowed the stars. "Are you ready?" Valoria asked, her hand finding his. "As ready as I'll ever be," Jack replied. "I still can't believe this is my life now." "A month ago, I was just a communications guy on a colony ship," Valoria smiled. "The Soul Star chose well. Your mind is different from ours. You see patterns we miss. You question things we take for granted." She paused. "If tomorrow doesn't work, it will," Jack said firmly. "We have to believe that." That night, as Jack tried to sleep, an alarm blared through the ship. He jumped up just as Krell burst into his quarters. "Your Highness, we're under attack." Jack rushed to the bridge where Valoria was already giving orders. On the main screen, he could see 3 Azurian ships firing on their vessel. "House Draz," Valoria explained grimly. "They would rather see our world consumed by the void than let us succeed." The royal ship shook as it took hits from the enemy vessels. Jack grabbed a console to steady himself. "Can we fight them off?" he asked. "Yes, but it will delay us," Valoria said. "And the void is still approaching. We may not have time to wait." Jack looked at the tactical display. Their ship was the largest, but the enemy had positioned themselves between them and the platform where the Great Soul waited. "We need a distraction," Jack said. He turned to Captain Powell, who had joined them on the bridge. "Can the Horizon help?" Powell nodded. "We're not much of a warship, but we can draw their attention." While Powell contacted his ship, Jack studied the map of the area. There was another way to reach the platform, a small service corridor through an asteroid field. It would be dangerous, but a small ship could make it. "We need to split up," Jack told Valoria. "You take most of our forces and engage House Draz directly. I'll take a small ship through the asteroid field and reach the Great Soul." "No," Valoria said firmly. "We need to be together to activate it." "You can follow once you've dealt with them," Jack insisted. "But someone needs to get to the platform now. The void is too close. We're running out of time." Through their bond, Valoria felt Jack's determination. After a moment, she nodded. "Take Krell and 2 guards," she said. "I will join you as soon as possible." Jack kissed her quickly, then rushed to the shuttle bay. Within minutes, he was piloting a small Azurian craft toward the asteroid field, with Krell beside him. "This is very dangerous," Krell warned as they dodged the first massive rocks. "I know," Jack said, gripping the controls tightly, "but it's our only chance." The small ship darted between asteroids, barely avoiding collisions several times. Behind them, they could see flashes of light as the battle between Valoria's forces and House Draz raged on. Finally, they emerged from the asteroid field. The platform with the Great Soul was just ahead, a flat, circular structure floating in space. But as they approached, Jack saw another ship already docked there. "House Draz got here first," Krell said, his voice tight with worry. Jack landed their ship on the opposite side of the platform. "We need to hurry." They rushed inside, weapons ready. The platform was eerily quiet. They moved through the corridors until they reached the central chamber. The Great Soul stood there, glowing faintly. Around it lay the bodies of several Azurians, scientists who had been working on the platform. "They killed everyone," Krell whispered in horror. Suddenly, a voice spoke from the shadows. "Not everyone." A tall Azurian stepped into the light. His blue skin was darker than Valoria's, and his face bore royal markings similar to hers. "Draz," Krell said, raising his weapon. "Lower your weapon, advisor," Draz said calmly, "or I will trigger this." He held up a small device. "A bomb powerful enough to destroy this entire platform and the Great Soul with it." Jack stepped forward. "Why are you doing this? Don't you understand what's at stake? The void will consume your world if we don't stop it." "Better destruction than surrender," Draz snarled. "Our ancestors fled the void, they built a new life, a new civilization, and now my cousin wants to invite it back? To become one with it again? That is not our way." "You don't understand," Jack said. "The void isn't trying to destroy you. It's trying to communicate, to understand what you've become." "Lies," Draz said. "Ancient superstition, the void consumes." That is all it does. Jack could feel the edge of the void approaching. Even from inside the platform, he sensed its presence. A vast, curious awareness. It's here, he said quietly. As if in response, the great soul began to glow brighter. Its light filled the chamber, casting long shadows. Step away from the soul, Draz ordered, raising the detonator. At that moment, the platform shook violently. Through the viewports, Jack could see darkness spreading across the stars. The void had reached them. The door to the chamber burst open, and Valoria rushed in with several guards. She froze when she saw Draz with the detonator. "Cousin," she said carefully, "please don't do this." "It's too late," Draz replied. "The void is here. We are all dead already." Jack felt something strange, a presence in his mind, different from his bond with Valoria. It was vast and alien, yet somehow familiar. The void was reaching out to him. Without thinking, Jack stepped toward the great soul. "Stop!" Draz shouted, his finger hovering over the detonator. "Jack, what are you doing?" Valoria asked through their bond. "Trust me," Jack replied silently. "It's already communicating with me. I can feel it." Jack placed his hand on the great soul. It pulsed with energy, responding to his touch just as the smaller soul star had. "Valoria," he called out. "Join me." "Now!" Valoria rushed forward, ignoring Draz's threats. She placed her hand beside Jack's on the great soul. The moment she touched it, their bond exploded with power. Their minds merged completely, becoming something new, something greater than either of them alone. Through this new awareness, they felt the void, not as darkness, but as curiosity, as loneliness, as a parent searching for its children. "We understand you now," they thought together. "And we want you to understand us." The great soul flared with blinding light. Draz screamed and pressed the detonator, but nothing happened. The void had already engulfed the platform, neutralizing the bomb's energy. The light expanded, connecting Jack and Valoria to the consciousness within the void. They showed it everything: the beauty of Azuria, the struggle of humanity, the joy and pain of separate existence. And it showed them its own nature, ancient, patient, and ultimately loving. When the light faded, Jack found himself still standing beside Valoria, their hands still on the great soul, but outside the viewports, the darkness had changed. It now shimmered with colors never before seen, forming a protective barrier around Azuria rather than a threat. "What happened?" Krell asked in awe. "We understand each other now," Jack said, his voice overlapping with Valoria's. "The void was never our enemy. It was looking for connection, not consumption." Draz stood frozen, the useless detonator still in his hand. "Impossible," he whispered. "See for yourself," Valoria said, gesturing to the VIEWPORT, where there had been empty darkness. There was now a shimmering barrier of energy that encircled their star system like a protective shield. "It will protect us now," Jack explained. "And in return, we will keep communicating with it, helping it understand the universe through our eyes." In the days that followed, Jack became something more than just the royal consort. The Azurians called him the voice of the void, a bridge between worlds. Through him and Valoria, a new era of peace and discovery began. The Horizon eventually continued its journey to the colony world, but with Azurian technology to help them and the protection of the void to watch over them. Jack stayed behind with his new people, with his queen. He still sometimes marveled at how his life had changed. He had never meant to marry an alien queen. He had never meant to become royalty. But now, as he stood beside Valoria on the palace balcony, watching the shimmering colors of the void dancing in the night sky above Azuria, he wouldn't have it any other way.